How's it going, guys and geeks? Welcome to the Geekritique show. My name is Dakota. Thank you so much for all the love that you guys showed us, me and Jenn, for our 4th anniversary, as well as our simultaneous 400th video. Thank you so much for all of that. We really had a blast reading through your comments. We're going to read through a little bit more of your comments, or I should say I am going to read through a little bit more of your comments, so specifically answering questions about the MCU that you guys had for me. If you guys follow our account, we sometimes post stuff on our community tab asking questions that we sometimes involve in our videos. So during and after this trailer breakdown for the new Avengers Endgame trailer, we're going to be answering some of your questions, probably all of your questions. It wasn't too many of them, but we'll get started. First, I just want to make a quick note. You already know there's a lot of old footage in here, but I'm going to break down a little bit of that, especially what I think it all means, going all the way back to 2008's Iron Man, showing different clips from different films, but desaturated, super exposed, and only red showing up. And there's some interesting choices in like the scenes that they use for the red, and I want to bring that out. So right off the bat, we see a little bit of red right over here. We're going to see more of that as we pull forward to Tony taking off this helmet. This is obviously from 2008's Iron Man when he broke out of that Ten Rings organization camp and eventually crashed into the desert. Now you can see these red tubes are the only thing that is colorized, the only thing that's saturated on this whole frame. Although in the actual movie, you'll notice that there is more red in the picture. In fact, you can see in the movie that there is a little bit of blood on his face and on his neck, as well as some of the wiring on the left also had red in it. So why they chose this specifically, they really highlight Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor in this. And I think each one has its own symbolism. Each character gets its own symbolism, and I think Tony's is his heart. So this is almost like a vascular system that we have here. It's interesting, though, that they don't show the blood on his neck, and I think that's because in trailers sometimes if you show a little bit too much blood or any blood, it might get a higher rating and be playable in less screens. So that's probably what that's all about. We got this clip in the first trailer or teaser for the film. Here we have another shot from 2008's Iron Man. Pepper gets him this gift. It's the original arc reactor that Tony creates in that cave in Afghanistan. This is also talking about Tony's heart. That's something that's very important. And the character does have a lot of heart. He's probably, I would say, a good portion of the heart of the team. Very interesting to me is the fact that this, in the actual movie, as I'm showing you now, this isn't actually a red object. It's more of like a copper brownish object that they've changed, that they've altered to make it more ruby red. Again, what is the purpose of this? I'll talk about what I believe the ultimate purpose is later, but let's keep going. We have another clip only highlighting the red. This is from Iron Man 3, shortly after the Mandarin, or the fake Mandarin, blows up his house in Malibu. Poor Pepper. So here we have, this is a first look at at least of this scene, or this shot of the Benatar just adrift in space. We got this image of Tony looking out at this blue beam in the first teaser. And now we transition into Captain America's scenes. Interestingly, you'll notice as I kind of pan between the trailer and the original movie, they really focused in on the American flags, when really in the actual film, there's a lot more red on the posters in the background than there is on the actual flags in this shot. So that's very purposeful. Obviously, the stars and stripes are Captain America's whole thing. It's patriotism. It's I don't want to say it's nationalism. I mean, it originally was in the first Avenger, but in Endgame, he's fighting for the entire universe. He's fighting for all of his friends that he lost. And one thing that they showed in Infinity War was that he kind of like stripped away a lot of the stars and stripes from his uniform. He was more of a nomad. Now notice this piece of footage from Ellis Island in New York City. There is actually only one pier on this island. There's only one place where ships really dock. So to see that all of these ships are just marooned, anchored, it's almost like a ship graveyard for whatever reason. I doubt that they all just drifted to Ellis Island. I don't think that's how ships work. There's no gravitational pull towards Ellis Island. But for whatever reason, these ships were just abandoned on this platform. We have this new shot of Cap. It kind of coincides with the big game trailer or the big game ad that we had in the Super Bowl. Just looking downhearted. It almost looks like it's an AA meeting for people who have been lost, or I actually have a feeling it might be more of like a veterans meeting, people who are now lost in the war. And while not many people would be alive from the World War II era, Steve here is about 101 years old by the time Endgame should take place, presuming it takes place in the summer of 2019. So he's kind of in a league of his own. So it may be from another war. It may just be, people we lost in the previous battle against Thanos. Now, this is a really interesting shot because we don't know a lot about what's happening here. We can make some educated guesses. We know that Clint has a daughter named Lila Barton, and we haven't seen her since Age of Ultron. Now, this girl appears to be about the age that the actress that played Lila Barton would be now, though it's not the same actress. The original actress that played Lila was Isabella Poynton. Now, I believe that this is Emma Furman. I'm not entirely sure. I can't get a really good... None of us can really get a good look of it besides the side profile. And the smile kind of just distorts the features of the face a little bit too much. But I'm pretty sure it is Emma Furman playing Lila Barton. If not Lila Barton, a lot of people have made the speculation that he is training the next Hawkeye, which, in Marvel canon would be Kate Bishop. But I have a feeling the Kate Bishop character is going to be foregone for the sake of him just having fun with his daughter, teaching her some of the tricks of his trade. This shot is juxtaposed with this shot. Notice that his hair changes dramatically, meaning that there is at least a day's difference between here and there. I believe that this scene happens just before the snap. His daughter may survive the snap, but based on his actions here, it doesn't look like it. He looks like he's out to kill. And why would he leave his daughter alone in a world where I'm assuming there'd be a lot of violence and looting after the decimation happens? So I doubt it. And we got a glimpse of this in the previous teaser. A lot has been said about Scarlett Johansson or Black Widow, or Natasha Romanoff's hair in this movie. She appears to have 4 or 5 different hairstyles throughout just this one trailer alone. And I'm going to try to break down what I think it all means. This particular scene probably happens within the first 20 minutes of the film. It occurs in Tokyo, and we have more proof of that later in the trailer. But her hair appears to be about the same length as it was in Infinity War during the battle in Wakanda. I can't be too sure because she has it up in a bun, but the bangs in front look to be about the same length, as similar to length to what we see later in this trailer, actually. So looks like she's grabbing Clint's hand. I don't think this is a romantic kind of gesture. I think it's just like these are two warriors who have seen a lot, way too much for any human to have seen. And the only thing keeping them together is each other, basically. It's a shared connection that really only they can have as super spies, as heroes in a world of superheroes that, just happen to keep up. So I really like that. Here we get a little clip from Civil War. They really highlight the stripes here. This is an emotional scene. You can actually hear the voice of Peggy Carter in this scene, Haley Atwell, which is a callback to when she said it in The Winter Soldier. A lot of people have speculated that maybe we might be getting a flashback or something to that effect with her included. I wouldn't put it past Marvel. That's part of Steve's arc. A lot of people have asked in the comment section whether or not I believe that Captain America is going to die. I think probably the best ending for him would be to go back in time finally get that dance with Peggy Carter, and live out the rest of his days wherever that is. Whether he's going to die or not, I don't know. But I would probably say he's at the top of the list of actors to, finally leave the MCU after completing their contractual obligations. Now here's a really interesting shot of Asgard from Thor Ragnarok. And why it's so interesting is because they've completely changed the color of the flags over here for whatever reason. What I think they're going for with Thor's, black and white and red scenes is that Thor is a royal character. This is his people, his home world. And you could see that in this shot from Thor, the first Thor from 2011. When Odin strips him of his titles, he rips the cloak off of his back. And that signified that he lost the title to the throne, which he was about to become king into. So I think that's probably what these scenes with Thor signify. Now, what all that means with Tony Stark and his heart, his vascular system, with Captain America and the Stars and Stripes, the American flag, with Thor and these country banners, and his title as a royal entity of Asgard. What does that all mean? I can't be sure, but I think it has a lot to do with symbolism. And obviously, you can make of it what you will. There's a number of ways you can make of this. In Schindler's List, it was a black and white film that very sparingly incorporated just brief shots of red. And to great effect. It was a great film. But another way of looking at this is just as a visual for the audience to realize, oh, this happened in a previous film. I think Jenn made that point in our trailer reaction where she said, I think that literally just means to the audience that this doesn't take place in this film. Don't get your hopes up with these scenes. Don't be confused for the casual movie-going audience. I also think it has more significance, and I'll talk about that later in this trailer breakdown. Here we have a montage of some of the people that were lost in Avengers Endgame. When you really slow down the graphics here, it really is truly amazing what they were capable of doing in these scenes. I know it's one of the most expensive movies of all time, but it looks so real, and it guts you. Thinking about what Thor is thinking in this scene, like, we've lost. I just had my chance. I did all of this. I went on this side quest just to make this weapon, and I failed everyone. That's survivor's guilt at its finest, or at its worst, I should say. And it kind of just breaks your heart all over again thinking about it that way. Again, focusing on the red. Here we have Natasha Romanoff and Steve talking, presumably. We don't know if they're actually talking to each other, but notice that Scarlett Johansson's hair has grown out quite a bit, and you could see that her roots are coming in, or have come in rather. She has more red hair than blonde hair in this scene. So at least, in my opinion, a year has passed. I don't know how fast her hair grows. It doesn't look like extensions to me, as Jenn mentioned in the previous trailer reaction. It looks like it's her real hair. Maybe not the actress's real hair, but Black Widow's hair. Here we have another shot of Bruce Banner. He's not really doing anything. Can't really comment on that. This is a really interesting shot. Obviously, a lot of time has passed. This person's yard and house has been overgrown, has been unkempt. Clearly, the person there has been decimated or snapped away, whatever you want to call it. This, to me, although I just noticed that there's a dog living on this porch, so maybe someone is home taking care of at least the dog. But Scott Lang appears to be very confused. He's seeing all these missing posters, and you see missing posters for Tony P. Henderson and other blurry names, but that's not important. The important part of what we're seeing here is that Scott is confused. He has no idea what happened. He has no idea that half of the universe just got snapped away. So he's probably coming out of the quantum realm some months, maybe years later. I doubt it's going to be years just for, continuity and timeline's sake, but perhaps months, maybe a year later. for the main events of this film. We have the Quinjet flying over Tokyo. We know this is Tokyo because of the Rainbow Bridge here on the skyline. Nice little shot. And I believe that this is the same basic shot. Perhaps this is either before or after that previous scene that we saw of Hawkeye. We see some of the buildings flying past in the background. Looks like they're getting ready for a mission. It might be that they're coming back from a mission. But I don't believe that's the case. I think they're going towards Tokyo for whatever reason. Nothing really to see here besides perhaps this light on his wrist. Now, it almost looks like a watch, but it's on the back of his hand. And that appears to be very similar to the items that we see in leaked footage, or leaked images rather, set images that show Captain America and Iron Man and Ant-Man ultimately on the set of the first Avengers film, which is just very confusing. So I'm assuming there will be a little bit of time travel involved, maybe a lot of time travel, and I think these may have something to do with it. Now, this is awesome. Obviously, we have War Machine. Okay, but this is awesome. Rocket is wearing his original comic uniform with the addition of that bandana that he sometimes wears also. That's just such a cool look. I wish we would have got that in Guardians of the Galaxy. Some shots of Steve and Clint. Looks like they're talking to each other, but Clint appears to be inside. He appears to be outside. Can't really tell, really, but that appears to be what it is. Here's a nice little shot of Scott Lang in his Ant-Man costume. Now, this is I really like what they're doing here. They've really given him that Ultimates look, which was one of the first comics that I was really invested in when I was a kid. So I'm really happy about that. It's just so cool. And notice the power emanating from the hammer. I don't know. This probably was like this in Infinity War, but I never noticed it up until now. It almost looks like blue flames coming out of it. I thought it was lightning at first, but no, it appears to be a different energy altogether. And it just looks beautiful. This is an interesting shot of Nebula. It appears that she's on Titan again. It looks like Titan. I might be wrong in saying that, but if it is Titan, I have a feeling this isn't footage from Endgame. It appears to me like this was cut from Infinity War, which obviously they have probably hundreds of hours of cut footage that they never used. So it wouldn't surprise me if they just, actually use some of that footage so that they didn't have to show it in the Endgame trailer. Now, you kind of have to put yourselves in the shoes of the Russo brothers in the creation of this trailer. They're giving us nothing. They're giving us nothing. A fraction of 1% of the film is in this trailer, and even less of that is plot. So in their minds, what they have to do is figure out a way to tease the audience without giving them anything. And I think that's what they're doing. I think they're literally just reusing shots. This looks like when Nebula is fighting Thanos. Maybe they added some stuff to the background to make it look more like a ravaged war zone. But I have an idea that that's from Infinity War and not from Endgame. We have another shot of Clint here, probably in Tokyo. Not really sure. This appears to be, we have the Hudson over here, the Hudson River, and Scarlett Johansson's character, I keep calling her Scarlett Johansson, and Black Widow's just firing away, nailing every shot. Really impressive, really. Her hair is just confusing to me in this scene because now it's full blonde again, but it's about the length that we saw previously. So, I don't know. I have a feeling that they're kind of toying with us a little bit. Maybe she dyes it blonde again. I don't know. Okay, this is cool. We see Steve strapping on his shield. But what's really cool about this scene is very briefly, at the bottom, you see that he has plate mail or scale mail on his costume. This has never been seen before in any of his costumes previously. A little bit, you could probably see in a little bit in Infinity War, if you zoom in on like the pieces that were ripped up in the fight in Wakanda, you'll actually see a little bit of like the under armor of his suit is scaled like that. And that was like a little hint what we're going to be seeing in Endgame. And it looks like in Endgame we're finally getting that Captain America with the scaled armor, which I'm all for. This is a really just bizarre shot with Ant-Man. It's hard to say what's going on, obviously. We don't know much. We see a pen there, we see a pencil here. He's jumping onto the pencil, kicking it up so that he can get the leverage to, bounce away. Did he need to do that? No, he could have just bounced over the pencil. We also have the male end of what appears to be a headphone jack over here. But what are we looking at, really, besides these things in the foreground? We see almost like a liquid flowing underneath him. It looks like he's stepping on rocks. We see fire blowing in the background, clearly taller than him, so he's in ant form. Obviously, we know that because of the pencil. But why does it look like there are rocks everywhere? Why does it look like everything's burning and bubbling at the same time? I have a feeling that wherever he is, maybe he's at his house, it gets blown up for whatever reason, but that remains to be seen. There's really nothing I can tell you about this scene at this point. And here we have Tony just, reminiscing in the Benatar. Now, here's the new Quantum Realm suits. We see that both Nebula and Tony are back on Earth. And everyone's looking pretty grim. They look determined. Whatever it takes, right? What does that mean? What does it mean, whatever it takes? Is that like, if it takes your life to get everyone else back, then, give it up? Probably. And I have a feeling that will happen to at least one person. Who that person is, I don't know. It might be Captain America. Could be Tony Stark. But I have a feeling because Robert Downey Jr. is such a big name actor in the MCU. He has sway with moviegoers. I have a feeling they'll keep him signed on at least, so that he can appear in other films as cameos, just to boost sales a little bit. So I actually have a feeling that Tony's safe here. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more Black Widow in this film, kind of like there was in The Winter Soldier. But yeah, a lot to look forward to in this, and it's really exciting. Now, again, notice the color scheme of these outfits. I have a feeling the red was ultimately chosen in the beginning, where they're going through those flashbacks, because of the outfits, because it's such a striking color on the white and black. And I think stylistically, ultimately, that's what it means. But symbolically, I feel like it has more weight because it's those original 3 Avengers minus the Hulk. Here we get our first look at Carol Danvers. Looks like she's put some makeup on. She looks like she's gotten herself comfy in the new Avengers base. And we see Thor kind of step up to her, a little bit intimidating. It's almost like he's testing her. And she's game. She's looking him in the eye. Didn't even flinch when that thing flew by her head. Obviously, that would have killed any normal person, but she's not a normal person, and she doesn't care. She looks at him in the eye. She squints, smiles. Thor says, "I like her," or "I like this one." And that kind of reminds me of in Thor when he has a coffee and he likes it, and he goes, "Another." And he smashes the coffee mug in the middle of the diner, and everyone freaks out. Now, notice Black Widow's hair here. I have to say, the way it bobs, it just doesn't look like it moves like normal hair to me. I think this is either a wig, probably is a wig because, most of these hairstyles are wigs. I have a feeling this is probably later in the trailer also. This is probably later in the film also. And they're probably digitally putting this in there because it just doesn't look right. It looks like they're hiding something. with that. So I don't know. I might just be seeing things, but her hairstyle changes quite a bit in this film. Now, she's also a spy, so I'm assuming she's not like unaccustomed to changing her appearance quite often. So that may play a big role in that as well. And that's the Endgame trailer, guys. I'm going to answer a few of your questions. All right, we got 12 comments. We'll just go through them one by one. John Evanoff, did you hear James Gunn got rehired for Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Let's go. Yes, I did hear that James Gunn was rehired. I think Disney overreacted when they chose to fire him. They fired him. It was unceremonious. They fired him, and there was a lot of pushback from fans. It was funny. I saw a tweet from Bob Iger earlier this morning where he was talking about, he shared the trailer for Avengers Endgame, and it was, he goes, this looks like it's going to be big. Do you agree? And I thought that was kind of like, obviously, you know it's going to be big, Bob Iger, who is the CEO of Disney. And in the comments of that tweet, it was literally just rehire James Gunn, rehire James Gunn, rehire James Gunn. I don't think those particular responses were what pushed him over the edge, but clearly he saw that this was a big deal within fandom, that James Gunn retained the rights to direct his baby, ultimately. It was his idea to create a Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. So they gave it back to him. And it's kind of a weird redemption arc for James Gunn. I haven't seen any comments from him yet. He's probably still a little bit salty that he was fired in the first place, but he can't be too salty because he also got the opportunity to direct Suicide Squad 2. And it's not every day you can say that I'm currently working on both a DC movie and a Marvel movie, both of which will be huge films. Lil Surge says, hey Geekritique, long time no see, but my question is, what do you think Cap's fate will be? I think I talked a little bit about that. Sacrifice will he travel back and live with Peggy and finally have that dance? Yes, I think we're going to have seen that play out because that's such a big part of Cap that's just missing. And I think from a storytelling perspective, that's extremely important for them to do correctly. I'm a huge fan of your channel and congrats on your 4th anniversary. Thank you, Lil Surge. I'm a fan of your comments. Jay Scott, thoughts on MCU Phase 4 movies and what about a Young Avengers movie being teased in Endgame? I think you're talking about... you saw the young girl, the young woman being trained by Hawkeye to shoot a bow, and she's clearly adept at it. She hit it on the bullseye. We also have young actors in the Spider-Man franchise and the Black Panther franchise, and I'm sure Ant-Man. They could very easily make those characters and put them together. The Avengers are gone for whatever reason. They need to, patch things up with whatever's going on in the world. I think that that's something that they can definitely do, and I would like to see that. MCU Phase 4 movies, we know that there's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's a given. Now we know it's going to be directed by James Gunn. We also know that Shang-Chi is getting his own movie. I'm not super familiar with that character, but he's a master at Kung Fu. And that movie will have come out around, I would say, 2021. That recently got a director. It should be on its way to pre-production very soon. What's interesting about that, because it's likely a 2021-2022 film, that's enough time for the Netflix rights on Iron Fist and all of the other Defenders characters to have been slated clean. So they could potentially show up in these films or on Disney Plus at that point. Apparently it's a 2-year gestation period of a do not compete clause that they had to sign with Marvel and Disney when they signed on for those characters and films. We also have the Eternals coming out. We have a new Doctor Strange in the works. We have Black Widow movie, which is likely going to be, I would assume it's going to be partly in the present, but mostly in the past, with a lingering thread of what happened in the past is now affecting her in the future. That's just something that I would picture happening. I picture it like a Bourne film. So there's that. Lots of stuff that's coming out, and I'm really excited about these movies moving forward. Zach, do you think Goose will appear in Endgame? Well, people will riot if he is not, but I don't see how they're gonna make it happen. I guess that would have to be answered by how long Fleur can live. Al Patrickson, looking forward to it, specifically talking about this video. Nico Giannakos. I've got a really deep one. Really deep. So there are rumors saying that Thanos might not be the only villain in this movie. The vibes we mostly got from the trailer is the impact of loss and whatever it takes. No compromise. They're going to be correcting what happens, but at what cost? What happens if they succeed, and in so doing unleash an even worse power? Let's put it this way. I don't know if there's going to be a worse threat than Thanos. Someone who can literally destroy half of all life with the snap. But I will say that not only the good guys know of what happened with the snap, everyone in the universe is now probably trying to figure out what happened to fix it, especially, or I would say including the bad guys. So I can imagine once they fix the problem, they have to deal with another problem. But I don't know. We do know that certain returning villains will appear. To what extent, I'm not entirely sure, but you can look that up. I'm not going to spoil that. Fruity Gamer, are you considering putting Inhumans earlier on your timeline? Considering it, it's not a definite yes at this point. 2, watching Inhumans, not anytime soon. Eventually I will. 3, watching the second season of Cloak and Dagger that is going to start soon, along with the 6th season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yes, I will do that. LA Wizard, have you seen the behind-the-scenes pics that were taken in New York? I believe it was Tony, Cap in Avengers 1 costume, and Ant-Man. Yes, I did see those. However, Cap had his mask off, and they all had tracking markers on them with the hand devices speculated to be in the quantum realm. Okay. Do you think they are compositing on the quantum realm suits in post in those behind-the-scenes pics? Yes, I do think that those are composite shots. They look digital. I don't think that they weren't necessarily wearing those outfits in the big game ad that we see them, walking down the hallway. But we'll see. Also, Cap had his Winter Soldier costume on in a previous trailer where I believe he will have the Quantum Realm or a new scaled costume. It's a lot to unpack there, but I think I got you. I think I got the gist of it. Matt Quack, think some villains from the past will show up if they end up going back in time? Yes. Here's a fun question if you guys feel like discussing it. Unfortunately, it's just me, Suzanne. If you had to be any of the Avengers or characters featured in the MCU, who would you be and why? Nick Fury. He's just too cool. He sees all the action, and he gets into a lot of action, but not entirely all the life-threatening action that the superheroes see. If not Nick Fury, then whoever gets punched the least. Donovan Gurakovics, I think that's how you say your name. Which soundtrack is your favorite? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 or Volume 2, and why? I would say Volume 1 strictly because that film came out, and shortly afterward, Jenn and I got married, and that soundtrack, when we were in Ireland, we went to Ireland for a week and change, and we rented a car, and we just played those songs on that album for the entire trip, and just belting it out, and it was a great time. So I would probably, for nostalgia's sake, say the Volume 1 soundtrack. Who do you think will die in Endgame? EOD Ecstasy. I think there's a chance that anyone can die, unfortunately. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. It really does help us out. It helps YouTube realize that this video needs to be seen by more people, so the more likes and comments and, just general participation and watch time that this video gets, the better, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you aren't subscribed, please do for more trailer reactions like this. Again, we are working diligently on the MCU timeline version 6. Should be coming roughly around the time of Avengers Endgame, hopefully. But we'll see about that. You guys need to hound me to just get it done because it's very important. So thank you guys so much. Again, have a good one.